All right, NHL preview time. And I start all my season previews looking at how the champions from last year built their roster. I think it's good to go back and all right, well, this is the team that got to hoist the shiny thing at the end. So let's see what lessons we can take from this team. And I think there are a couple of interesting ones that we can go with from Florida, back to back, where I'm handwriting notes on this. So let's just going to run through how they got the players and how the Florida Panthers built their championship team. We start with Alexander Barkov, 2013 second overall pick. That was just behind Nathan MacKinnon. I don't think Colorado really kicking themselves for that one, but Florida absolutely gets a good one. Obviously based here in Calgary, this one's going to sting a little bit. Matthew Tkachuk, acquired from the Calgary Flames, along with a fourth round pick for Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, Cole Schwindt, and a lottery-protected 2025 first-round pick. This one was obviously the big swing one. And at the time, there was a lot of, it's the summer of Brad. The Calgary Flames somehow, they lose, Johnny goes to Columbus, Matthew is on his way out, and somehow Brad Treliving got this team to be better. With Jonathan Huberdeau coming in, young defenseman and Mackenzie Weegar, it's Nazem Kadri, and obviously it has not worked. But from a Florida standpoint, Jonathan Huberdeau was the heart and soul of that team. And he was one of the straws that stirred the drink out there. And so to make that move, to go from Jonathan Huberdeau to Matthew Tkachuk, when Huberdeau was such a big part of the fabric of that team, was a really bold move and a really bold decision to make. And in hindsight, obviously it worked. And yeah, toxic. I want to go back and make sure we don't have the, oh my gosh, Matthew Tkachuk was just traded Twitch stream up from before, because holy cow. We were all there. I was there saying look, this team is better. And if nothing else, they are better built now for the postseason. And Matthew Tkachuk has just gone out there for 2 years and absolutely proved me wrong. And that it is kind of reminiscent. I know the camera's not great today, but you can see in the background the Kawhi Leonard picture. It is it's not a straight line comparison because Tkachuk stayed, but it is very reminiscent of the Raptors trading DeMar DeRozan for Matthew Tkachuk, for Kawhi Leonard, where you have a player who has embraced this franchise that a lot of people have kind of snickered at over the years. And he has been a leader, and he is such a major part of what you are doing with this team. But you also recognize there's a ceiling. And so you can have the guy who everyone likes, or you can get the guy who can go out and win you some championships. And Matthew Tkachuk has got them to within a few wins of a championship one year, and then got them to winning one in the next year. So that would, look, no one is going to argue that the Tkachuk trade didn't work out. I just wanted to explain that all. But yeah, toxic. We were all on that hype train, 100%. Carter Verhaeghe was a free agent acquisition in 2020, in the offseason going into 2020, 2021. Anton Lundell, a first-round pick, 12th overall in 2020. Sam Reinhart, acquired from Buffalo for a 2022 first, which turned into Yuri Kulich. The fact that I don't know tells you that maybe it hasn't hit yet. And Devin Levi, who I do think is going to turn into the goalie of the future for Buffalo, but for Buffalo, but I do think they kind of need that future to be now. Sort of a thing. So there's a bit of frustration with that one. Evan Rodriguez was a free agent signing in the offseason leading into that championship year. And then another one, Flames fans. Sam Bennett comes to Florida from the Calgary Flames, along with a 2022 sixth, which to this point hasn't really turned into a whole lot, I don't believe, for a 2022 second, and Emil Heineman. This is a difficult one, again, from a Flames standpoint to look at, because the Sam Bennett that has showed up for the Florida Panthers did not ever show up for the Calgary Flames. And I don't think that it was the Flames didn't use him in this, the Flames didn't use him in that. Maybe they could have given him more runway in a top six center role, but anytime he got into that, it never worked. I don't think that is one where you can look at it from a Flame standpoint and criticize, oh, well, they didn't blah, 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 because they did everything. They put him with Gaudreau and Monahan. They had him as a top six center. They then, okay, it's not working. Let's build up your confidence, put you on the wing. And the second anything started working, okay, let's move him up the lineup. And it just never worked. He just looked like a bottom six player in Calgary. And I don't know if it was just he needed a change of scenery, if the give a damn meter just ramped up a little bit, or what it was, but something changed when he went from the Flames to the Florida Panthers, and he turned into a player who can help you contribute at a championship level. Now, we always knew the playoff stuff was there, and we've seen that here. That was the intoxicating thing of all of it, is that he would play in the playoffs like an absolute beast. And you can't do that for 82 games. That would be exhausting. But that guy was always there, and you just wished he would drag it out more. And there's still some inconsistencies in Florida, but it is so much better in Florida than in Calgary. But the Flames had exhausted all of their options when it came to that anyway. So I don't think you can really get too worked up about that necessarily. The interesting part about this deal is what the Flames end up doing with it. I know this is technically supposed to be a segment about the Panthers, and I've talked almost as much about the Flames as I have the Panthers, but that'll stop after this one. The two pieces that the Flames get back, they flipped Heineman in the deal for Tyler Toffoli. I don't think he was the key piece of that. No one, I don't think that that trade doesn't happen if Emil Heineman just isn't involved in the trade. But they at least use him to get a piece that contributes to the team, wasn't going to stay, or maybe shouldn't have stayed. And they flip that for Igor Sharangovich. So it's not a one-to-one, but the Flames do use the piece they got for Sam Bennett to get Sharangovich, who looks like he could be a part of the Flames' future. So they at least turned a bit of a positive out of the negative. They also, that second round pick that they got in this trade, they didn't end up using that one. This trade, not quite as successful. They flipped that pick to Seattle for Kalle Järnkrok. That one didn't work. That one didn't work as well as the Toffoli trade did. Järnkrok was terrible in the playoffs and then left. Vlad Tarasenko gets acquired from Ottawa for a 2024 fourth-round pick and a 2025 third-round pick. Now, the fourth actually turns into a 26th third because the Florida Panthers won a Stanley Cup. So they haven't technically lost anything from that just yet. Eetu Luostarinen acquired from Carolina with Eric Holla, Chase Prisky, and Lucas Wallmark for Vinny Trocheck. Luostarinen not a crucial part of the championship pedigree of this team, but they at least got a piece back in the Trocheck trade that I thought was just horrendous. And now he's off doing big things with the New York Rangers. So really, I don't know if anyone won that trade. But at least they still have a piece from that contributing here on a championship roster. You have Kyle Okposo acquired from Buffalo for a 2024 seventh-round pick and Kalle Sjölin. The seventh-round pick actually turned into a fifth-round pick because Florida won the Cup, and they used that on Max Curran, center from the Tri-City Americans. I don't think we can really call a winner on that one either way just yet. And Kevin Stenlund, a 2023-2024 free agent. On to the blue line. Gus Forsling. This is insane. A waiver claim from Carolina. I totally forgot about that. I forgot that he was initially a draft pick of the Canucks. They trade him for Clendening, who everyone, I don't know what the draw was with him, but everyone got really excited about that dude. Anyway, not the point. And then he gets flipped again to Carolina, and then they try to pass him through waivers, and the Panthers are just like, thank you. And he turns into one of the best defensemen on a championship-winning team. Brandon Montour, acquired from Buffalo for Steeren Sardarian, who was then traded for a third-round pick. Oh, sorry. They used that pick on this Sardarian fellow who sounds like an extra from Game of Thrones. And I don't believe he has done a whole lot for Buffalo so far. So that kind of feels like a steal in that whole situation. You have Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who is a free agent signing in 23-24, along with Nico Mikkola and Dmitry Kulikov, and you have Aaron Ekblad, a first-round pick in 2014, a first overall pick, in 2014, and Sergei Bobrovsky signed that gigantic contract in 1920. That's an interesting conversation. When I was on Sportsnet 960 out here in Calgary, me and Julian McKenzie talked about this, both on and off air. Because at the time, that contract was gigantic. And then they drafted Spencer Knight. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, this looks like it could be one of the worst contracts in the league. And there are times where he plays like it's one of the worst contracts in the league. But then he has a run in the playoffs like he did. And he is a bad 3-game stretch away from being a unanimous selection for the Conn Smythe Trophy. it's such a weird one. And like he got his name on the Stanley Cup. And he got their names on the Stanley Cup. So there is in no way am I saying that this was a bad contract, but it looked like a really bad contract for a really long time. And now it looks like, oh no, yeah, you're paying a championship goalie, but you should be paying a championship goalie. It's a really weird kind of legacy that Sergei Bobrovsky leaves behind. Like, if you just said to me, hey, is Sergei Bobrovsky a Hall of Famer? I would tell you, absolutely not. But then you look at the resume, it's like, well, he's won 2 Vezinas. Stanley Cup winning goalie. He, I'm not going to say carried that team, but he was the best player on that team for 15 of their 16 wins, I would say. Like he was spectacular. And so it's like, you kind of go through the resume, it's like, fuck, man, he might be. And so what lesson do we take now from Florida? Because I always like to at least take something, like what can we learn on? And again, I'm based here in Calgary. I got the Flames hat. You can't see it because of the bad lighting, but the Blasty is behind me as well. What do we take from this? And I don't want to say, like, don't give up on these players, because we saw it. Like, Sam Bennett had just reached his ceiling and just moved on. But this whole thing that the Flames are doing right now, where they're going out and just like, okay, well, let's see if we can get this underutilized guy here and this underutilized guy here. This is the best case scenario of that. Now, it's a bit of a bigger scale because Florida was trying to win. But I don't know if it is sheer dumb luck or incredible scouting or what it is. I'm sure Florida Panther fans will tell you this is just amazing recognition of talent and understanding what will fit in a Paul Maurice system, and also an amazing job of getting the most out of your talent. I think Florida Panther detractors will tell you, nah, you got a little bit lucky. And it helps to also have Barkov and Ekblad. And that is another big part of it. And I'll get to that in a second, probably. But I think the big thing here, what they were able to do in making moves and going out and picking up some guys who had a pretty good pedigree at one point and had some hype behind them, and now maybe getting them for 15, 20 cents on the dollar and being able to turn them into championship winning players. That is how this roster went from good to great. I think they were able to get, I would say, a pretty significant discount for a Sam Reinhart. Now they're not getting that anymore. But a first-round pick and Devin Levi for Sam Reinhart, who led the world in scoring, and did all of those, like, was just unbelievable for this team all season long. That is a steal. To give up a second and a Heineman for Sam Bennett and what he was able to contribute, an absolute steal. A waiver claim on Gus Forsling, a 3rd-round pick for Brendan Montour. Like, you look at what they were able to do, and again, like a Carter Verhaeghe, just a free agent signing that probably didn't even get mentioned on free agency day. At least it wouldn't have if he wasn't a former Leaf. I think there are a lot of these things where they identified some guys who had some talent and some guys who had some upside from a while ago that maybe had either fallen off a little bit or just weren't maximized in their situation, and they took full advantage of it. And so that is why you see the Flames try to do stuff like they have, and why San Jose goes out and is like, yeah, we'll give up a 3rd-round pick for that guy. Let's see if we can get the last little bit of usage out of a Cody Ceci or something like that. I'm not saying like it's going to hit like this and San Jose is going to be the next Florida, but you do that so maybe you do strike gold with one of these guys, and they do end up being the waiver claim that leads to your championship. But again, it's that championship foundation. And what is it? It is Barkov and it is Ekblad. And it was Huberdeau who then turned into Kachuk. And it's a 1st overall, or a 2nd overall pick and a 1st overall pick. Those are the guys that set that foundation. And so that is what San Jose is hoping they get with Celebrini, and Chicago is hoping they are getting with Bedard, and the Flames hope they get soon. They are hoping to get those guys who can build that foundation that you can then expand on with some smart moves like the Florida Panthers made here. So that is the Florida Panthers and how they built their championship team.